I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey and I welcome you to an exciting round 1 match of Group C of the Carcassonne Champions League 2025 where the 2023 world champion Matt Tucker with the screen name statmatt will be playing against Bryan Townsend of Chile with the screen name Bry. So this is one of the first games of the tournament. The tournament is still young. Group stage, best of 3, your usual stuff. With not much intro, we're going to jump in right into the game. statmatt is expected to be the favorite here, not only as the world champion, but as the currently highest rated player and former MVP of Team UK at the World Championship. But as we can see, Bryan here with a more than comfortable expert level rating and some chances for an upset. Camouflagey choice of green meeples. Matt with his traditional yellow. The first game of the 3 has started. And the Chilean player has a bit of an advantage with 8 points on the scoreboard from the city in the center. Starting a new one, Matt gets a good tile to start a new city and continue his ring road. The first stream of this tournament, the first stream of the year, which you witnessed yesterday, was at quite a brisk tempo. It happened to be the shortest stream that we ever had on this channel. That was Slovakia against Catalonia. And here we expect very much the opposite because Matt is known for taking his time. And it pays off, of course, when it comes to his results. But the games last much longer. And this means that we're more likely to have time for deeper color commentary, deeper analysis and stuff like this. Hi Nalaheim. Hi Matt. I see already rooting for your namesake. Do let me know if we have Chilean fans here, because it should be not too late in Chile. It should be, what, like 1700 UTC, something like this. So what are we having here? Matt is now thinking really hard with this tile, and I can see the reason for it. So first of all, it has a shield, and you might want to put it over here, but then also you really want to be breaking your opponent's city. He decides to put it on this side. Doesn't really matter too much whether you place it over here or over here. Some advantages and disadvantages for both of these moves. So the advantage of this move is that it sets up an invasion platform over here, and yellow could get something like a Dorito tile or a city cap and invade whilst also adding 1 point to his monasteries and creating yet another monastery spot. But the downside you just saw, by adding this tile over here, it gives green an opportunity to add a tile over here in such a way that not only adds a point to the city, but also starts obstructing that monastery square a little bit. And this can be somewhat annoying. For example, a triple city tile could go over here. Then there would be only 2 daggers remaining. This meeple could be lost. It's not that likely to happen, but it is a reasonable possibility, and these possibilities add up. Now, after this tile, yellow already starts feeling somewhat apprehensive about the prospects of losing a 16-point city, so he even spends a shielded tile trying to connect over here, or at the very least prevent the completion of green city. Seems like a worthwhile investment. Now, Bry reinvades, but actually I don't think that's a strong move at all here. I would have probably either gone over here, neutralizing a city cap, or just started a new city somewhere else. Because the issue is, if green invades over here, then this will give yellow a platform to block this square. Yellow, of course, is not interested in this city being completed once there are 2 meeples on it. And yellow's meeple, while scoring only 2 points, would be happy with this staying empty or being blocked completely. And yellow could even build up over here and over here, trying to block this square, build up his side of the ruin to 5 or 6 points, allow HT Bry to have the larger chunk of the ruin, but at a price. Green would be investing 2 meeples into this ruin, whereas Matt would be investing only 1. This would give yellow the long-term meeple advantage, which could later be converted into a win with a big field or a bunch of monasteries or some other big feature that would require a lot of meeples. Hi, Girappa. And we can see that Matt is going for this plan straight away. It's not just adding 2 points, it's of course also setting up a blocking attack, and Bryan doesn't draw a good defense tile. So probably his best move is just to ignore it and play the equity game. Simply going over here, starting a new city cap is the move that jumps out to me. We could also be extravagant and actually go over here, trying to take over this road. The road is 6 points. It's not that easy to block at all, so this actually could be worth it in this situation. But the standard move really jumps out to me. We could also go over here, but that would be a bit of an overreaction if you ask me. So the purpose of this move would be to try and make sure that there's still 2 tiles that fit into this square, the 2 horse tiles, because one of them has just been drawn by yellow. But this would come at a price of restricting this here square, and that's why Bryan decides to simply get himself 3 more scoreboard points, start a new city, and then try to win this game despite Matt completing his blocking plan, which he can't do anyway with this tile, so his strongest move is probably going over here, starting a new city, or even dropping a farmer. An alternative is just going over here, finishing a city that he had open, but it seems to be a bit unambitious, and I wouldn't expect this move from Matt. A couple of years ago, he had a reputation for being quite a conservative player. This has changed over the years, and as his point-scoring aggression ramped up, so did his results, especially in live tournaments. Hi, Sergey. And as expected, he leaves the city open and goes for the more efficient move. So probably the thought process was whether to meeple the city cap or to go for the farm. So there are arguments for both of these. Bryan decides to clean off the city cap, leaving a big monastery spot for either side to capitalize, and that either side is Matt. Yeah, so I guess you go here, you do take the 7 points. Even though it's a slightly dangerous spot, it's actually not as easy to block as it may seem. There's also this 6-point spot, and there's also this 4-point spot stacking the monasteries. It's actually really not obvious, but if I were yellow, I would say that taking out the 6-point spot is more is a priority, because there's still 4 monasteries in the deck, and green could draw one of those monasteries. And even though the spot looks sort of dangerous, because this square could get blocked, in reality, it's not that dangerous. And most of the time, when in doubt, the least dangerous monastery spot is the one which has more points in it. And I'm really surprised that Matt chose this route, because that extra tile that will take to build up could really matter in a situation where there is only one meeple in hand for yellow. The advantage, of course, is that this spot was controlling this road end, and Matt was able to score 2 quick points whilst also adding a monastery point for himself. But this square is just as vulnerable as this square, And the other issue that I have, if Bryan were to finish his city over here and this tile weren't here, then this would create a platform for green to attack this square too. This was an annoying move from green, from yellow's perspective, of course. From a Chilean fan's perspective, it's a lovely, lovely move. So it makes it much harder for Matt to finish his city quickly. It even starts some ideas of blocking the city completely. Well, not now, as Matt immediately draws a tile to get his meeple back. And Bryan, of course, could have used this tile to restrict the city further or to restrict the monastery, but he realized that he needed it to proceed with his city takeover plan. If I'm yellow, I'm not too concerned about this plan because there's still this platform over here to reinvade the city if we have to, or if red connects over here with a Dorito tile, this will give back a reconnection platform over here. So the chances of green successfully completing a large city are rather slim. Probably what green wants to do is make Matt equalize this city and then hope that whilst these two monasteries get built up, green can use his 2-to-1 temporary meeple majority to do something nasty. This also was another issue with the monastery placement. So if the monastery were placed here, then this field connection would not be possible. The field is still small enough. So if anything, if I'm yellow, I'm almost feeling relief that green went there, because it means that we won't have to work too hard on developing this field anymore. It can stay just at these 9 points. On the other hand, if this meeple weren't here, and if this field were to stay thoroughly in yellow's possession, then maybe we can use this 9-point field as a potential win condition in the future. So even though 9 is not a lot of points, it gives us a lot of flexibility in the game, because then later we can decide if we need to grow the field, we can drop a divider, get 4 points over here, 4 points over here, and 6 extra for the field. That's like 14 points with just 3 tiles towards the end of the game. And our opponent might not have enough time to reconnect. So we might not have to resort to that. I think Matt's position is just fine. So the main threat is the city that will need to be taken care of. And if he just manages to complete one of his monasteries, he should overall have the advantage. But having a 9-point field with a bunch of green squares in your possession can really add flexibility and be of importance nearing the end game. But certainly not a big concern that green will be able to equalize that. And Matt is thinking really hard what to do with this divider tile, and that's because there aren't any good moves. And oh boy, is that a content move or not? I like it. I really like it. It looks counterintuitive. It looks like yellow is blocking himself, which he is, but in fact there's still 2 tiles that fit into that square, and yellow also realizes that strategically he needs to be completing only one of the monasteries, and this monastery has a good chance of completion. He'll now probably bring it closer to completion after this. With a road move over here, I would be surprised by anything else. And he can have an off chance, or sort of a 75% chance, maybe a bit less, that he would be able to finish this monastery and even meeple a new city cap. On the other hand, if Bryan gets a city cap like this, then he can't really go over here and take advantage of the shielded tile, because that would be helping Matt's monastery too much. He'll probably go somewhere else and either start a new city or finish the one that he already has. So that's a sneaky way of placing a tile in such a way that only you can benefit from. So it's a counterintuitive move. It doesn't always work. In this position, I like it. In some other positions, it could backfire. So don't try this at home unless you really know what you're doing. But Matt does. Now Bryan here with a great aggressive move. Actually, both players are playing really well. And even this plan by Bryan, which I doubted at first, seems to be temporarily working. So he was waiting for those big tiles to connect to the city, and he did get a majority here. Also, in such a way that it is not easy for yellow to reconnect, because yellow now needs to use this platform. Because green connected with a triple city rather than a Dorito, it does not give back another connection platform here as previously expected. The downside of this sequence is that green was forced to use 2 blocking tiles, which could have been used to kill off yellow's monastery. So green needed to use these city tiles to connect over here. Bryan now with an interesting decision. So that's a great monastery tile. And the big question that we have to ask is, do we go over here and place our last meeple for 7 points? 7 points, of course, is not a lot for the price of 1 meeple, but the plan is that we'd be getting this meeple back with maybe 2 curves or maybe a straight line and a crossroads. And green decided he wants to do this. I am not sure about this. I like it. I always like a monastery placement. But in this particular instance, it's a bit more dangerous than it usually is. Just because the quadruple city has gone out, and there's this idea of getting a straight line and something like this. But still, loving that move, loving the aggression. And Bryan now gets a meeple back from completing his city, so that works. Matt will now probably go over here and place this tile near his monastery, or just place it like this, building it up. Yeah, and he does add 1 monastery point and sets up a huge coin flip, because there's still 1 tile remaining for this square. If yellow draws it, yellow gets 8 points for the city and a meeple back from the monastery, no likelihood, because this square is pretty easy to fill. But if green gets this tile, well, then green has a dilemma. Green could take the 8 points for the city, but then this would also give yellow a meeple back. So this wouldn't be a huge benefit for green. So this coin flip, 2 possible outcomes are either a huge benefit for yellow or a slight benefit for green. So it's a great position to be in if you're yellow. Bryan now with a double city cap, not many good moves, but I can think of one. Maybe just going over here and protecting his monastery a little bit, although that's not so much protecting, it's simply just protecting the city from being invaded, building it up. This would probably be my choice, but this also a completely legit move. It simply tries to block the square, drops 2 city caps in a way that will allow yellow to take 1 and green take the other. The only slight issue that I see with this move is that normally when you drop a city cap like this, it is the sneaky idea behind this is that if your opponent draws a vanilla city cap or a splitter or something like this, it puts them in a dilemma. So does yellow go over here and take 4 points? For example, imagine if yellow were to draw a tile like this. So does yellow go over here and take 4 points and block himself, or are they forced to sacrifice a city cap? In this position, this would not have been an issue because there is this other city cap available, and yellow would have scored 4 points here. This ends up not mattering as this square is quickly blocked. So this monastery is not coming back anytime soon, but this monastery is probably coming back. Bryan 7 points ahead on the scoreboard, ahead on the ruin, and yeah, overall a great position for the Chilean, and overall the Chilean's playing really, really well. So about this monastery, there is one potential downside for green, is that once this monastery is completed, this will blow this field wide open. This will add this square to the field, loads of green squares. If another road monastery is drawn, even this city could get into the field. But apparently it's something that Bryan wants. Typically with a lead on the scoreboard, you do not want to be creating big fields just to avoid your opponents winning a big field fight and coming back into the game. But it is not something that's happening anytime soon. In order for that to happen, this curve would need to be drawn and this curve would need to be drawn, and still a couple of tiles before this might happen. This monastery could be blocked anyway, and so could this. Statmatt with the last vertical splitter of the game probably wants to drop it somewhere. Yeah. Ooh, and he even decides to meeple it straight away. That's risky, but respectable. Bryan has a pretty easy move to cover up the invasion and restrict Matt's city cap. So if I were Bryan, I wouldn't really think about this move too hard. I don't really see any alternative there, and I have no doubts that green is going to play that exact move. So this ends up working not great for Matt, as he has a tile which he can't play productively. Probably just discarding it somewhere works well enough. But where exactly? Well, I guess you could go over here. No, maybe over... Yeah, it's a tricky decision here. Decides to simply put it in the most obvious spot at the top. Bryan now with the curve, and again, a decision. Does he finish his own monastery, or does he block or restrict yellow's monastery first? And given that yellow does not have meeples in hand, I'm really tempted for this move. But let's see what green chooses. Green could also go over here, and this would be just as good. Then if Matt were to finish this road, this would allow green to be the first on some sort of farming platform over here to attack the resulting big field. And it will be some time before Matt can draw a city cap to finish this city and consolidate and have enough meeples for a field fight. Hi, Sunny. Sunny's saying when behind, it is better to not meeple the city cap and hope for the best scenario to draw it before the opponent. Probably, yeah. Well, I guess the downside of leaving the city cap empty is that this would allow Bryan to make a move like this, not only shielding the invasion spot, but also eating up the city cap. As Matt, I would have probably played differently. I would have just simply dropped the city cap in a field and waited to resolve the city problem a little bit later. So if I'm yellow, my strategy is I leave the city alone and I attack it only if I absolutely have to. And I try to win by scoring and getting myself a meeple back, having a meeple majority, maybe even winning a field. Oh, what a move here by Bryan. Spending his last meeple just to equalize Matt's city cap. And it looks like it could work. Bryan now with another decision. Either he can connect the roads and give them both a meeple back, or he can restrict Matt's monastery, and given that there are only 4 crossroads remaining, he chooses the latter. So now every move Matt will have like a 20% chance of getting a crossroads. 20-25. This of course will grow with every move as more of the non-crossroad tiles in the deck are being spent. Also, we need to note that a splitter could be drawn by Matt to get a city meeple back. So then if I'm Bryan, I want to go here and make sure that if Matt gets a splitter, which he now does, then I would also get myself a meeple back. So I think that's a miss here by the Chilean player. I'm just gonna question those priorities a little bit. So he does get away with it, sort of, kind of. He will be getting a meeple back, but to disallow your opponent to splitter in the first place would have been my priority. And with a small number of meeples remaining, the purpose of a block like this, it's really not to trap this meeple completely. It's simply to delay its retrieval. Like, this move in and of itself, without any follow-up in this position, is good enough. So that's also sometimes that I see some players do. They try to block a little bit too hard when a simple delay is good enough. Matt now has a fantastic tile. Farmer. Wait, I'm shocked. Why did Matt not drop a farmer? Seems like a lovely, just a fantastic spot. You go over here, it's your last meeple, but whatever. There are 3 tiles that go over here. There are multiple tiles that go over here for meeple retrieval. I mean, maybe he's going to do that on his next move. Well, no, but now he can't. And it seems like such a good platform, too. I guess I can see the reasons behind this. There's some... Well, first of all, we want to keep a meeple around to score 2 points for this road. I guess this might be a motivation. Or we want to keep a meeple around for an extravagant move like this. So Matt can actually now go over here and meeple this city cap. Yes. Oh no! He decided to be even more risky, and instead of meepling the city cap, just left it open, simply setting up a coin flip. And you can make an argument for that too. Like, it's not a bad move necessarily, but I would probably prefer that with a meeple. But it's a tricky decision. So, of course, it looks like a mistake after Bryan immediately had this tile in hand, but it's not necessarily a mistake. If you get lucky enough, it's like a 45-ish% chance that you're going to be the first to draw this tile. Then suddenly you have 8 or even 10 points if this tile is with a shield. I overall like this idea. But this also just shows you how important it is to have more meeples in hand. Because if yellow were to have 2 meeples, then yellow could have gone over here safely with a meeple and just waited for one of the 2 tiles that fit there. In the meantime, some desperate attempts by yellow to create invasion squares immediately shut down by green. Really not that much that yellow can do here in this game anymore. Green can probably... Oh, that's actually a great question. What does even green do here? Just adding a couple of points over here? That could do it, but this move by Matt opens a very nice connection platform, one that cannot be easily blocked. So we can see that Matt finally gets a monastery meeple back and 2 extra points for a road. Now I'm going to have a meeple majority, and then there are some chances for yellow. Yellow could attack the ruin from here and or from here. There's still a Dorito and a triple city tile to connect. Now no more Doritos, but still a triple city tile remaining. But now, of course, Bryan will just go over here and attack the field. Or will he? A completely legit move. No. A way better move is just go over here and take this 12-point field. It's the less confrontational of the 2 moves. And also we need to realize that the main field is also 12 points. It just looks bigger. So of course it's better to take 12 points using 1 move rather than take 12 points using a sequence of 2 moves. So as green, you could just go over here, you can kindly give this field to Matt, you can try to protect this ruin, and this should be enough to win. And exactly, a 12-point farmer goes for Bryan. Matt with a straight line doesn't really have good moves except for obviously going over here and taking over the field, which he does very quickly. And now Bryan with a fantastic scoring tile. Hi, Edgar. So Bryan's thinking where to score the 3 points. It almost feels like an insult to be thinking with a tile this good. But certainly respect for trying to be precise. He might be considering going over here and starting a new city with his last meeple, but this is the kind of stuff that you typically do when you're behind. The city is relatively easy to block, given the small number of city caps remaining. So I assume that his thought was whether to take these 3 points with the city cap pointing down or pointing up. He pointed it down, making invasion of the city a little bit harder. Mats can probably now complete the invasion over here, although I'm not actually so sure. Maybe we could have considered going over here. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, check this out. I think Mats maybe had a plan. Instead of this move, why don't we go over here, drop a farmer, then you'll see in a second. So I think this was a move which was a bit rushed. So now Matt needs to find a high scoring sequence, and the high scoring sequence is you go over here and you drop a farmer and you try and connect with the last curve. But the idea was also sort of similar what we could have done as Matt. Instead of this move, we go over here, try to equalize this 12-point field. And when it comes to this 12-point field, we wait for a crossroads. Then we put a crossroads over here like this instead of this tile, and we drop a farmer here. At the same time, we've connected this guy to the field. Oh wait, I'm hallucinating. Yeah, we don't need another farmer. Wait, why am I hallucinating so bad? Yeah, because yellow already has the majority here. Yellow does not need another farmer. So then this makes me think that going over here was way more important, because there were just so many tiles with which we could have connected to the field, including this one, for example. So this seems like a bit of an inefficient route, given how dire the yellow situation was. Yeah, so the move was to go over here, hope for a curve, connect here, and then with a tile like this, connect to this field. It maybe seems that the British player has just thrown in the towel, which might be their best move strategically. But it seems that after they've drawn this tile, they realized that they could have actually connected to this farm and to this farm. And then if that were the case, maybe there were some chances. So let's say, no, Matt simply doesn't have enough tiles. Simply does not have enough tiles to orchestrate something. Like, I was thinking maybe, since there's one triple city tile left, maybe as yellow we could orchestrate some sort of double invasion over here and over here to try and not only equalize but win over this ruin completely. But there were simply not enough tiles to do stuff like this. And yeah, this was a great move by Matt over here, taking 2 points, but pre-defending this square, because Matt was planning to draw this tile and connect to the city like this. Great plan. It would have worked if not for this tile being drawn by HT Bry. Now Matt does go for the field invasion. Bryan will take 3 points over here. Matt will get a curve and connect, but this will be nowhere near enough, sadly for our British fans. And joy-inducing for our Chilean fans. 5-point road of his last tile, doesn't draw a curve to connect. Not that it mattered that much. Would have been 9 more points. Actually, would have been 8 more points net for Matt had the tiles been reversed. If a curve were drawn here, this would have made yellow 14 points instead of 5. 2 points for the road plus 12 for the field. Then that's a 9-point difference. But also green would have taken this 5-point road instead of this 4-point road. That's a 1-point difference, so 8-point net is the price for drawing the wrong tile only. And a massive difference of almost 40 points certainly should make the Chilean very happy. Yeah, so his plan worked really well, and I have to say that Bryan played really well. Of course, drew some crucial coin flips over here, and it made it very difficult to invade that city, but that initial plan of trying to build up a ruin, which is game decisive, that worked really well. Also some nice scoring aggression going over here with his last meeple and managing to get those 9 points. Also another idea of going over here, trying to build a big road, which forced Matt to spend his meeple to equalize, and he didn't have a lot of meeples in that position. So a slight upset that the Chilean wins the first game. Let's see if the former world champion has something to respond with. And he gets the starting player advantage, so this is certainly good for yellow. Green now with a standard city cap move, starting a new city, restricting the city of yellow, but yellow gets the city cap anyway and starts a new city whilst also completing his previous one for 6 points. Bryan with a great tile, but several options here. He could finish his city and equalize yellow's city, or he could finish his city and start a new city over here, or he could even finish his city and lie down on this field, anticipating Matt closing his city, increasing the number of city caps in that field. So 3 moves that are legit moves. Anything else would probably be a mistake, but it's not quite obvious which of these moves to choose. Hi, Hexic. Where can I read about this league? Great question. Oh yeah, you can read this over here. So if you go to carcassonne.gg, it's a great website made by the creators of the league. There's pretty much everything, the rules, the dates, and you can see all the players and all the groups. So we might also just do a quick rundown of Group C, which is the group where these 2 players are playing. Yeah, so Bryan chose to not leave a city cap empty, which makes sense. And Matt immediately responds with this well-known maneuver with a barbed wire tile. Oh, no. I was going to praise... yeah, so first of all, before I talk about this move, which I think is somewhat misguided, I just wanted first of all to comment on this idea, which is really sneaky. It starts a new road for 3 points, and it leaves a city cap open in such a way that can benefit only yellow. If yellow takes it, yellow takes 4 points. But if green takes it, green takes 4 points, but green creates a blocking platform against his city over here. So with this configuration, a good outcome for green was quite unlikely. But this move honestly might be just a misclick, because this move would have made way more sense with a farmer over here. So this 1-point city doesn't have a lot of value, although it will have more value once green goes over here and tries to eat up this city meeple. But of course, getting a farmer here, anticipating the completion of this and this city, especially with this configuration making the field so much hard to invade, would have been really strong. And now it is Matt who has this field, So green probably just has to go over here as soon as possible. Because if Matt finishes this city and drops a farmer here, well, then the game can get out of control really, really quickly. The problem for green here is that after this, what I'm going to assume a misclick, he can't really go over here with an easy heart. Okay. Yeah, this is a big mistake here by green. I was going to say that green might not want to go over here because there's another sensitive spot to take care of. For example, if green were to get a Dorito, green would want to go over here to tie this precariously placed meeple with this safe meeple of yellow. Yellow now completes his city, starts a new one, expands his lead to 8 points on the scoreboard, and of course makes it much more difficult for Bryan to complete this city. As opposed for this move, the purpose here is to build a lip-shaped city. That's like a standard shape. But what green is doing here, he's just sort of applying a one-size-fits-all solution. So in most positions, lip-shaped cities are a good thing to do because because it's a way to use otherwise clunky city building tiles in a productive fashion. So you can start 2 city building projects at the same time, somewhere with a city cap and somewhere with all these Doritos. But in this position, the threat of this city was so great that not equalizing this city, okay, let me put it differently. So this city is 4 tiles away from being completed. Even if it grows into something tangible, first of all, it will be a solo effort from green, and green will have to spend 4 tiles. So there are many scenarios where yellow can easily afford green completing the city. The second issue is that if it does grow into something dangerous, because it takes so long to complete, yellow will be able to invade. So yellow will be able to complete his own 8-point city, then use that newly recovered meeple to invade and equalize this city, and this will put yellow up 8 points comparison to green with the absolute same amount of effort. And another way to think about it was as follows. Yellow was 1 tile away from finishing this city, and green was 3 tiles away from finishing this city. The temporary values of both cities were 1 point. So this would make this city worse than this. Equalizing your worst city with your opponent's better city is a very, very good thing to do. Now you can see the consequences of that. As Matt was preparing to finish his 8-point city, now green desperately blocks. And Matt has created an invasion platform, a blocking platform. So this city building project is not going to pass the hearing in City Hall. This is my prediction. It's not going to get even a building permit, nor the budget, nor the licensing, nor the materials, really. Well, he might get the materials, the tiles, but he'll probably need them elsewhere. Green has some things going for him in the meantime. This monastery placement, of course, was quite handy. 6 points and an ability to use this road end to finish his 5-point road. A very efficient building, and there's really not much that Matt can do about it. But Bryan now has a city cap. Needs to think hard about what to do. I guess you want to go here to sort of slightly mess with Matt's city and also continue building your own. But there's just no good move in this position. Ideally, you want Doritos here. But you can't wait until you draw Doritos, because Matt's gonna get a tile here and put pressure on this square. So green starts a new city, which makes a lot of sense, but then it makes this square next to his monastery slightly vulnerable. Also, Matt just keeps bounding with this move, adding a monastery point to himself and starting to play against this square is annoying for green, to say the very least, because now with this move, green can't even go over here, because if green were to go over here, yellow would have gone over here and blocked the square. So this means that Bryan, first of all, needs to draw a crossroads, which he does, but he can't use it now, because he has to place it over here to protect this square. And that's actually more important. And he might even want to drop a farmer here. That would not be a bad idea at all. So yeah, so he now needs to use a crossroad to protect it here, because by completing this 4-point city, yellow has created a threat of permanently blocking this meeple, so we need to defend. Chooses to do so without a farmer. That also makes sense. Farmer would be a bit putting too many eggs in one basket. So this move gives a 75% chance to complete the city with a 3-point road extra, and maybe even some chances that green could have to win the game, even if he doesn't draw any of the 2 remaining starting tiles that fit into the square. But you see how important blocking threats are. Because yellow created a blocking threat against this meeple, then green was not able to use this perfect tile over here where he really needs it. And this means that these 2 meeples will be delayed for longer, if not forever. Matt now has a splitter tile, a variety of good uses. Probably I want to make like a standard move, just going over here. Yeah, meepling the city cap for support. Still plenty of chances to finish this city. Still 2 tiles that fits into this square, so 2 right-handed daggers like this. This also creates a blocking platform against this square if Matt were to draw a city plus road tile, such as a Dorito. So then Bryan probably needs to go here to defend. I don't think we should be saying goodbye to our meeple this easily. If we're gonna have our meeple blocked, like we better make our opponent work for it. And I know that green might be tempted to go over here and just finish his city and renew his temporary meeple advantage. This would be too risky, in my opinion. But green decides on something interesting. So he ignores his city at the top, but he starts a counter threat of blocking. And I can certainly get behind that. I'm not sure if it works in this actual situation, but it might. Matt gets a defense tile, but it is a double-edged defense because it actually allows Bryan to make a stronger block. If Bryan goes over here, this will tie the fate of this meeple and this meeple together. And this will also expand the city by more squares than yellow would be comfortable with. But I am shocked again at the prioritization here. So now green decides to defend with a tile that doesn't really make it easier for him to complete this city. Matt can now easily go over here and start a new city. And this is exactly what he does. And it looks like he's restricting himself. But first of all, that's not a big deal, because at the very least, he's guaranteeing himself to save 1 meeple. What green could have done, green could have made sure that yellow needs to that yellow can lose 2 meeples. That would have been a real chance for green to get back into this game. And after this move, this configuration is actually really favorable for yellow. So about this city, it is scoring 6 points, and it has, well, let me see how much. Well, definitely over 50% chance of being completed throughout this game at some point. And I'm already including blocking calculations in the equation. Still 3 tiles to fit here. Still 2 tiles that fit here. That makes it easy to complete. Yeah, and look at this. So it's a bit, again, like this blocking threats is a bit misguided from Bryan, because what this move actually did, it allowed Matt to complete his 4-point city and get out of the way in such a way that doesn't make the square vulnerable, but actually defends it. So now it's quite difficult for green to draw something here that would block the square. I mean, it's possible. A monastery would do it, a vanilla city cap would do it, an extender would do it, but a straight line for Matt would complete the defense. Matt, in the meantime, unapologetically building monasteries. Bryan finally gets another crossroad to get a meeple back and to get some points on the scoreboard so sorely needed. Matt with a straight line probably could use, and look at it, he doesn't even bother defending the city because he's just so confident in his ability to win without this city. And I would have probably still used the defense just because this threat is so big. But I think the idea of this move, he just simply wants to ignore this city and score guaranteed 3 points next to his monastery. Also, if this square was somewhat vulnerable, there were scenarios if that green were to go over here and then over here, green could possibly block 3 meeples, and yellow wanted to avoid that, even though there was no imminent threat. It was a possibility. Green, of course, now does complete the block, but Matt gets the dagger tile, but he should still go over here because these are simply 3 road points and 1 city point. And this is also something I'm going to say, that even if the square gets blocked, then this city will eventually give Matt 10 points. So 7 points for the city itself plus the road. And this is exactly what happens. 17 points on the scoreboard for yellow. Green with an interesting tile. I think if I'm green, I'm going here all day with the meeple, you know, your good old, it's not going to be quite Ukrainian technique, it's quasi-Ukrainian, trying to simply delay the onslaught of this section of the board being developed. Maybe we can go over here, meeple this, get another city tile, try to make it harder for yellow to complete the monastery. If yellow somehow decides to go over here, we get a 10-point city as a compensation. So this is all doable. Instead, green makes a different move, which also makes sense. So this move is not just discarding a tile. What this does, it restricts this square, and restricting this square makes it harder for Matt to draw something like this and place it over here. And so result of this is that this square is protected. So it seems that green's plan is to build the city until completion and come back into the game through this route. At this point, I'm starting to doubt whether that's going to be even enough, but it could. Imagine if a shield goes here, and a shield goes here. City cap, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 22-point city. If that happens, then maybe we're talking. So what should Matt do about it? Probably just ignore it. That would be my answer. And just allow him to complete the city. But that's another possible answer, a much more principled one. Creating 1 direct blocking threat and 1 threat for invasion or restriction. Luckily for green, he draws a fantastic tile. And he can go over here, score 3 points, and defend. I like this move. Maybe I don't like the placement of the city cap too much, because the city cap is placed restricting it toward the starting tile. But the starting tile is needed by green elsewhere. So this means that really only yellow will be able to capitalize from this city cap over here. If yellow draws a starting tile, yellow will go over here, take 4 points for the city. If green takes the starting tile, green will of course go over here. So the only way how green can benefit from this tile is if green draws both starting tiles, which of course is way less likely. On the other hand, if you turn it to the left, it gives a city cap, an immediately exposed city cap for his opponents, and potentially grows the field, but it could be not such a bad thing necessarily. Right, Matt is now trying to really work against this city. And Bryan now gets a tile to defend. So he's one tile away from completely covering it up. Matt cannot easily invade the city. Should probably go over here, trying to set up another invasion square or blocking square. And now there's suddenly some real chances for green in this game. So that's why I was wondering, maybe instead of these attacking moves, even though they look really, really strong, and they are, maybe just simply doing the normal thing and building up your monasteries were the way to go, because they have a 14 points scoreboard lead, and an extra monastery, that's 9, that's 23. It's sort of enough to counter the 22 points from the city, and then you still have this 9-point field in the center, which is not that easily accessible, and then you can hold on to a win by a couple of points. Wow, what a move by Matt. He now decides that he wants the city of his own. And can't blame him for wanting that. It's actually quite difficult to block. Yeah, he'll now go over here, build it up, and then there's still 3 tiles that fit into this square. I really like this move here by Matt, trying to simply allow green to complete his city. And just build a city of his own. Green now covers up this square, so makes it impossible for Matt to invade immediately, but it comes at a price. Now the problem for green is that he needs 2 Dorito with the road tiles in 2 different places. And that means that it's only a 50-50 chance of this city being completed. Yeah, actually, I think you know what would have been a much, much stronger move, but a counterintuitive one. Instead of covering the city like this, you cover it up, pointing the city cap upwards, recognizing that there's still 3 dagger tiles that fit into this square. And so then we have 3 tiles that fit here, 3 tiles that fit here, and 3 tiles that fit here. That's an excellent chance to complete your city. That's like a 60% chance or something. Now it's like closer to 40. And this is presuming that the square doesn't get blocked, which is not a given. Yellow gets a fantastic tile. I feel like I've been saying this quite a lot in this game. Take your pick. We can take 3 points and create an attacking platform against this poor guy. Or we can just simply finish a road, which I did not expect. I would have probably opted to complete a monastery and start a new one. Just really try and run away with those construction projects on the left. But Matt decides that he needs a meeple for something else. Not quite sure what that is exactly, because he's already controlling the fields. I guess his plan is to go here and drop a 9-point farmer or a 6-point farmer at the very least. Yeah, maybe that's what you need a meeple for. Because let's say if you get... Yeah, that's an interesting point. So let's say if you get a dagger as yellow, you can't really leave that field empty. Because if you do, then green gets a curve and drops a farmer here and potentially controls a 12-point field. Let's say if this city gets completed and this city gets completed, then this field here is going to be 12 points. So if yellow goes here and drops a farmer upon drawing the dagger, this would be really strong, not only because of threatening the city, but also because this would not allow Bryan to get a Dorito tile and go over here. Oh, look at this. So Matt decided to try and attack the city And Bryan immediately got one of his 2 Doritos to cover it up, and it almost seemed super, super hopeful for the Chilean fans, but... Oh wait, no. It still should be hopeful, because Matt has not drawn the last Dorito tile, he just drew the penultimate Dorito tile. He'll now debate with himself whether it's worth placing it over here. But now, there are 2 tiles that fit into this square for green, and 1 tile that fits into this square for green. So the game could turn around real quick here. There is an extra bit of venom, and the idea of finishing this city. Well, first of all, dropping a farmer here would be dangerous, but also dropping a farmer here, this would give 6 points immediately, and a chance to connect to the main field through the starting tile, which is actually not as easy to block as it may seem. Matt decides to YOLO it, adds a point to his city. Of course, it's as risky because it will now get blocked. I still agree with Matt's move because at the very least, it created a threat and it made sure that Bryan used a valuable tile in order to complete the block. So we still got something out of it. Bryan now with a curve as Matt completes yet another monastery. So the idea of outrunning the city, that should still probably work. Although I'm not quite sure, because Bryan will be taking these 2 fields in addition to the city. So that's not just 22 points for the city, or rather 20 points for the city, because the last remaining Dorito does not have a shield. Oh no, 22. Wait, we can count this later. It's like either 20, 22, or 24. I kind of forgot that this expanded a little bit, so I think it's going to be 24 even. So what is going to Bryan do with this curve? I am going to assume just going over here makes sense. Or maybe going over here, rather. Oh, Matt gets a fantastic tile. Not only does he score 4 points, he does not, this move, connect these 2 potential fields. So now the idea of Bryan going over here and meepling the city upon completion will no longer be possible. Matt and the British fans should be very happy about this draw, as the penultimate Dorito with a field is drawn by him. Could probably go over here with the meeple or without. Actually, even going over here with the meeple is not such a bad idea at all. Simply preparing to finish his monastery, getting a couple of points. There's still plenty of city plus field tiles, I believe. Maybe plenty is a bit of an exaggeration, actually. Wait, so if we go here, what do we have? So we have the 1 Dorito remaining, but in that case we win anyway, so we shouldn't count that. So he does go, yeah, he does go for this move. We have this tile, which now Bryan drew to complete his city. And there's still 1 of vanilla city tile remaining, and of course there's still the daggers. Oh yeah, this is an excellent move, because there were just so many tiles that fit into this square. Again, very counterintuitive, because you don't want to start these awkwardly looking cities like this, typically, this late in the game. It's just Matt realized that it's so likely to work, and he will now be finishing an 8-point city. That's just a fantastic sequence by yellow. Also, oh, a bit surprised that he didn't drop an insurance farmer there. I think it's a bit being overly stingy, because there are still field invasions possible in theory. So Bryan gets himself a farmer. And actually, I agree with the decision to farm instead of taking the road, because he wants to be super efficient with his meeples. If he does get the Dorito tile to fit over here, he will of course be getting a meeple back immediately and farming here. He could probably still technically finish this road. Yeah, as Matt, I think not dropping a farmer here is maybe a little bit sloppy, or trying to be overly efficient. The reason why I'm a bit concerned about that farmer is because theoretically there are options for green to invade through here whilst completing his monastery, so dropping a farmer to make sure that the field stays in yellow's possession could be worth it. But with 40 points on the scoreboard, I don't think there any moves that could lead to a loss. With the exception, of course, Matt suddenly trying to be really cooperative and placing a Dorito in Green City himself. Curve for Matt now. Still 2 curves remaining. Actually, a move like this could be really strong, because it could prevent, well, it would prevent, in fact, green from completing his monastery, and it would also give us nice 4 points. And it would also prevent an invasion. Because there are still 2 curves available, green can go here, drop a farmer, then connect over here to the outside of a curve. Or green could go here, drop a farmer, and connect to a curve like this. Still unlikely, but possible. Even though all this, of course, could be relatively easily blocked. And Matt finds it. A 4-point road and an extremely, extremely annoying move. So I'm wondering, as Bryan, given the desperation, do you just go here and drop a farm? Or yes, he does. Oh, what a move. It will not work, as it will get blocked immediately. And maybe that's what Matt had realized prior, that it's just super easy to block. But here's the thing, here's a super interesting thing. So now this block will be complete because there are no right-handed daggers remaining. But if green were to go over here, then this connection through the outside of a curve would also be possible with the left-hand dagger, which still exists in the deck, quantity of 1. And so this move eliminated that slightly more probable field connection opportunity. As for this move, yeah, it does look like super unpleasant and anything for yellow, but in fact, I believe that every single tile in the deck was good enough to block this square. So maybe it was just a bit of an overreaction for Bryan to go over here. And the better move, now that I see it, for green would be to go here first and then set up a field connection platform. Then draw a curve to go here, and then draw this tile to complete the connection, so with the farmer 1 space higher. But still, really difficult to recommend something to a player who's down 40 points. Wiseman is saying at plus 40 it doesn't really matter, and yeah, you could say that, but I know that Matt really likes being precise, either as the attacking side or as the defending side, which he is now. So that's why, for example, we saw like a full 30-second tank before making this blocking move. So this was, so in order to make this decision, okay, Matt actually draws the Dorito tile that would have fit over here. I think he can actually even go over here and complete this city for green just to prove a point. I wonder what are the ethics of this, like to show, oh, like I won so hard that I can even finish your features and still win. Probably a bit excessive, but I know that some players like to do that in casual games. I don't. I still prefer to make moves which are in my best interest. But yeah, so going back to this move, so we can definitely tell by the timing patterns that Matt was, first of all, double checking the number of tiles that fit into this square, double checking whether the square is even worth blocking, realizing there was a curve remaining, then realizing that this would be a complete block because in fact all of the right-handed daggers have been gone. And then actually made the block and delivered on it. Yes, a really strong showing here from the British player coming back into this match, and it all comes down to the decider. So we saw a blowout in the first game, a blowout in the second game, and this should mean that the third game is close. No, it shouldn't, because that's not how math or statistic works, but I like to think that, because the gambler's fallacy is just so appealing. What are the chances that 3 games in a row are going to be blowouts? All right, so 40+ win. Let's update the score to oh, I forgot to update the score in the first place. Ay. It's 1-1. Had one job. Well, actually, no, I didn't have one job. I had many jobs here, like to keep speaking all the time and trying to count tiles while I'm doing that. It's actually takes a lot of concentration, so that's why I forget about such stuff as updating the score. So let's see if the decider had started or the players agree on a break. And no, they don't. And neither do we. As Bryan Townsend has the green meeple and the starting player advantage and the first city tile and the second city tile, which is used not in the way that I would use it. So he tries to sneak in a 10-point city, but Matt, with this ugly looking city tile, is very happy to deny green all his city building efforts. Moreover, he'll now probably go over here and try to take over the city completely, or at the very least finish himself a nice 8-pointer with 2 city caps, and this is exactly what happens. Yeah, as green, I would have just started a new city elsewhere, maybe over here. So there are many advantages to a move like this. I might address this at a later stage. But now Bryan with a curve. Still shouldn't be too worried. There's a great move available over here with the meeple on the road. Yeah, lovely stuff. So now we're now trying to block Matt's city over here. Matt's now not trying to complete the city. Instead, he's trying to start a new one. But a great tile for Bryan as he gets one of the 2 splitters in the game against all odds. And he will be completing a 10-point city, getting a meeple back, getting a lead on the scoreboard, slightly restricting Matt's city on the right, and leaving Matt with not an appealing looking city on the left. It is of course super likely to be completed, but because it is controlled by green's monastery, yellow will be adding monastery points to green as compensation. Yellow prolongs his road and green's monastery at the same time. Green just milking every point that he possibly can. 13 points on the scoreboard and meepling a 3-point road that will go through Matt's city, which is a good move because with any of the 3 shieldless Doritos with the road, green could go here, maybe even drop a farmer under some circumstances, finish himself a 3-point road without really bringing Matt's city closer to completion. Bryan attacked both of Matt's cities at the same time, and yellow now manages to defend one of them, but the other one will likely suffer. Definitely worth an investment of a tile, if you ask me. So I guess Bryan is thinking whether to go over here and leave only 3 daggers, and that's what he opts for. The alternative was to go over here, pointing upwards, leaving more tiles that fit in the square initially, but also setting himself up a nice 6-point road. Goes for the purely blocking move, which I think is the best in this position, but finally Matt finishes an 8-point city and gets himself on the scoreboard. 4 meeples for yellow in hand, 5 for green. But green doesn't have good moves here, so he could go here and take 2 points. But then this could actually give a lifeline to Matt's city. So imagine if green goes here and takes 2 points, which is what I would probably do anyway. Then Matt can get something like a quadruple city tile, go over here, and then force this green meeple to spend a Dorito with a road tile to liberate the 3-point road. But this in turn would add all these extra city tiles to yellow city, and would make sure that yellow can simply develop this little guy profitably on a ruin. So he wouldn't even need to get his meeple back, and he wouldn't need to take care of the square. And because of all that, green decides not to even bother with 2 points, but use this tile as a blocking tile, severely restricting yellow city and his own monastery in the process. So this city in all likelihood will not be completed, and neither will be this monastery, but for the side with the meeple majority and the general lead, this is absolutely fine. The reason why it is extremely unlikely that this city will be completed is because these squares need the same tile, the right-handed dagger. And of course, yellow will prioritize placing it over here in a square where only he benefits, rather than here, where both the yellow city and the green monastery benefits. Bryan now starts a new city, but this one's not a great move, really. Even though it looks very nice, that it sort of restricts Matt's city here, it doesn't really accomplish much, because restricting yellow city at the top is not that important, given that this square is already restricted. Second, this restriction can backfire if Matt draws one of the 2 remaining cow tiles, horse tiles rather. That will not only give him city expansion, but also now 2 extra road points from this road end. And third, the main reason why I don't like this move is the fact that it now pre-builds a 5-point road for Matt. There's still 3 daggers that fit into this square, and now when yellow draws one of them, he will not only be continuing his city, he will also be starting a 5-point road. So a better move for green was probably starting a new city somewhere here, or simply taking 2 road points on the right. Let's see if this makes a difference in the end. Green with a nice curvy move of 1 monastery point, setting up a complete block of the square just to be safe, and to be slightly annoying, restricting the road for yellow. And now yellow has a choice. He could actually just go over here, finish the road, and start a new monastery, but he decides to wait with his road, finish it a bit later with one of the 3 remaining field crossroads, and meeple the monastery in the most profitable place for 6 points, hoping to get another monastery over here for 7 more points. Bryan, with a shielded tile, he might be tempted to go over here and complete this block. I think that would be a bit of an overreaction, because his lead is not that great. Instead, he completes his own city at the top, which is double-edged. The good news, of course, is that if he gets something like this, which Matt now has, he could get 8 points for the city and even further restrict this square. But the downside of this move is that if yellow were to get a Dorito tile, yellow could go over here and tie this good city of green with the bad city of yellow through this square. This is not possible at the moment, as Matt simply has a city cap, finishes a 4-point city. And now it is not even obvious, does green even want to go over here? And green decided that he doesn't, that this block can wait. He wants to go for the field. Which makes sense, as there are a lot of green squares on it, there are already 2 completed cities, and there's even a 3rd city waiting to happen from yellow. Mads gives himself a monastery point, but exposes this square somewhat, and exposes this square somewhat. And what Bryan could do here, he could go over here and create a 50-50 situation in this square. And now there are 4 monastery tiles that fit here. If green were to go here, this of course would be adding an extra point to yellow, but this would reduce the number of tiles that fit over here, leaving just the 1 remaining road monastery, which is something that's worth doing. It would be a severe delay and a 50% chance of a complete block. And this would also nicely restrict this city cap of yellow in such a way that yellow would need the same type of dagger, the right-handed dagger, in both places. So this does appear to be the move. Let's see what he chooses. There's some alternatives. He could just go over here straight away, simply restricting Matt's city and not allowing yellow to complete his city and use the new platform to equalize the field. But instead he just blocks that square, which was it really that necessary? Actually, I don't like this prioritization one bit. Either you have to do something about this city first. Either you restrict it from this side or from this side. I can understand why he doesn't want to create the 50-50 maybe, because this would be adding the point not only to Matt's previous monastery, but also to the new potential monastery. So this would reduce yellow's chances of a successful outcome, but it would increase the impact of that outcome if that were to happen. And with a lead it's not something that you want to do, maybe green is a bit overestimating the lead that they're having. Maybe green really wants to block the square. But the reason why I really don't like blocking the square in this instance is because it is not obvious whether it is in green's interest. Because what could happen? If yellow draws a Dorito and connects this city together with this city, then this meeple will be blocked together with this meeple. So it would actually now be in green's interest to place a tile over here simply to finish his monastery. And by placing over here, green is committing to the idea of keeping the top city of green and the bottom city of yellow separate. With this tile, he of course succeeds, but at a price. He's now making it harder to complete, because there are now 2 tiles that need to be drawn to complete it. He's also pre-building a 3-point road which goes through yellow's city. Yellow now very pleased to draw one of the roadless monasteries for 8 points. And this is the moment where green really needs to do something about this. So the move that we have to play is just to go over here, try to restrict that square. An alternative is to go over here and try to restricting that square, but we cannot leave this stuff alone. Like, yellow's meeple are not allowed to survive for this game to stay equal. But they will survive as Bryan makes good blocking move. Matt gets an immediate defense, and I wonder why this move is not played straight away. Okay, so it is played after a few seconds. Of course, he ideally wants to take these 3 points for this road up top, but this would be extremely poor prioritization, not something that we would expect from a world champion. Of course, Matt gets himself the extra city point, the extra monastery point, and protects the square, leaving a whole 3 tiles that fit there. It's an excellent position for yellow. Green at least has a threat going at the top. It is a 14-point city waiting to happen. And Matt doesn't really have much that he can do about this. Probably just here, restricting this city somewhat, but no possible invasion moves. And restriction is not enough with a large number of city caps still available in the deck. You really want to try and invade this at some point. But if we go over here, leave the city cap open, we can delay Green from recovering his meeple, and then this can allow us to draw either a city cap over here to score 4 points, which would then allow us to draw a road, and then we could try and really block this square, or we could have enough time to draw something like a Dorito plus Dorito sequence to still connect this city of green to yellow's unappealing ruin. And this is exactly what Matt does, and it works in the short term like a charm, because Bryan gets a tile that would have completed him a city, but now it doesn't fit there anymore. So he now needs to opt for a subpar move. Not obvious what to do. He could just take these 4 points anyway and allow Matt to make a blocking move, given that there are still 2 right-handed daggers available that would fit in that square. This would, of course, clean off a city cap as well, and it's something that you want to do in the position when your opponent has only 1 meeple. Because when your opponent has only 1 meeple, then you know that quick points are an extremely valuable source of points for them, because this is almost the only source of points. So you want to take that option away. But given yellow's lead on the monasteries, a move like this might be appealing as well. I really like this decision by the Chilean. Starting a 4-point road, dropping a city cap in his field in such a way that would restrict yellow's city if the city were to be taken. But now Matt gets monastery, which he can't really use productively due to his lack of meeples, and finally Bryan gets a tile that will enable him the completion of the city. And 14 points from the city should now give the advantage to the Chilean player. Oh wait, am I being informed that all daggers are out? Oh, I confused them with the other kind of dagger. Huh, interesting. Oh, thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, so that of course, then of course, completing this city for green would have been a bad idea, despite the fact that it would have worked. Matt gets his own 6-point city, which would also quite close to being blocked, but it won't be blocked. Bryan now, with the only possible legal move, this quadruple city tile goes only here. And then he's thinking whether to meeple this or not. He decides not to meeple it. He will need his meeples for something else. Maybe a field fight. I can see such an option happening. There's a particular sequence. There's a particular tile that Matt would love to draw, and that tile is the regular T-shaped crossroads, because that tile goes over here with a farmer setting up one of the 3 curves with the completion of 2 monasteries, an instant 5-point road and a field connection. Now that would certainly be the jackpot for Matt. It is unlikely to happen because there are only 2 crossroads in the deck whilst there are still 3 curves, so it is more likely that yellow will draw a curve before a crossroads. But also this idea works with the road monastery too. You can just go with the road monastery here, drop a farmer, then get a curve with the same idea. But Matt doesn't draw any of that. He draws a city tile, which he uses to start a new city at the top. Makes sense. You really want to create these threats when you're behind. Also, I'm noticing that a large number of Doritos, 6 Doritos, are still in the deck. And 3 of those would go nicely over here to complete this city like this for 14 or even 16 points. Bryan decides to pre-meeple a road. That's actually really smart. I wonder if that's maybe a tad premature, but no, it makes a lot of sense. Of course, now when Matt will be drawing a curve, he will be giving 3 extra points for Bryan, and of course he won't be meepling this road himself. But then Matt does not necessarily have to place a curve there. This is also another issue. Bryan with a scoring tile, but a difficult decision as Matt does draw one of the many Doritos to cover up his city. The Chilean could go here, trying to disrupt the city, but that wouldn't be a very smart move given that there are still 3 left-handed daggers remaining. He could go here simply to recover himself a road meeple, but I really don't want to be giving a shield to my opponent if I'm green. So probably the move that I'm settling on is temporarily ignoring the city and just waiting for a better attacking tile. And just going over here. Yep, exactly. Yeah, sure, we can even meeple that city piece. Not necessarily though, we can just leave that empty, that's also fine. And then meeple that later with the next tile. But the important part of that move is securing that 6-point road. Still 4 straight lines that fit here, 6 points and meeple back, not that easy to block. Matt with a city tile now, that's an interesting, because that's a city cap, and in theory you could go over here preparing to complete your city. The downside of that move is the fact that there are more Doritos remaining than city caps. So a Dorito plus Dorito sequence could even be more likely than a draw of a regular city cap before the square gets attacked or blocked. It probably seems to me that we still have to bite our tongue and just do it, just because there's no other good move. Well, I guess we could go here, like, and clean off this city cap, but this wouldn't accomplish much because this would leave another empty city cap. So that's why Matt does decide to change his plans, and instead of going for a Dorito plus Dorito combo, he'll simply be trying to draw a regular city cap. There are no vanilla city caps to fit here, that's the problem. But there is one diagonal splitter, and there are 2 splitters like this, so the vertical splitters, and of course there's still the 3 daggers that fit into this square. They can still be used here, they don't have to be used here necessarily. A straight line is drawn by the Chilean, so 6 points and a meeple back for the road. Join the scoreboard, and Matt gets one of the 6 city caps that was available to him, completes his city, and drops a farmer for 6 points and 2 more open city caps for even more scoring potential. And after Matt's city has been completed at the top, this situation looks utterly dreadful for green. I don't know what can he possibly do to come back. Now, it seems that these are only 4 points, but no, these are not just 4 points on the scoreboard. We're also a monastery behind, And we're about to be tied in meeples, because Matt still has plenty of curves or crossroads to go over here and get his meeples back. See, I'm really not sure what to do for Bryan. Do you just make a waiting move, like taking 1 point for the road, bringing it closer to completion? Or do we go straight away here, trying to attack Matt's field? Another alternative is to go over here and try and block that square, not allowing Matt to get an extra meeple back, but it feels a little bit too slow. One point is indeed the move. Matt now with a bit of a dilemma. So do you go here and hope to finish your city, or do you simply score? Now, if we go here, then we also have to place our meeple on the 5-point road, and this is our last meeple. But it is better to spend our last meeple than to leave a 5-point road empty, because this would allow an easy scoring move for our opponents with one of the several road ends remaining. There's still 2 crossroads, and there's still a road monastery, and there's still 1 horse tile. So that's 4 road ends, and if you're asking me, there's about 3 road ends too many. Or you could just score, which I really like, because we don't necessarily have to finish that city in order to win. And this is something that Bryan recognizes, but a fantastic tile for Bryan now, despite the fact that Matt just scored 4 points for the city and 3 points for the field. He'll be able to invade this field later, but he's now developing his field of his own, improving his position by a lot. That's a 7-point move, but a fantastic tile for Matt, as he immediately gets 2 points for the road, 4 points for his previous road, a meeple back, and a 10 points advantage on the scoreboard. Bryan, with a great tile of his own, is going to use it to develop his field further. Really exactly the kind of stuff that he needs at the moment. And need I remind you that he still has this city open, and there's still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 Doritos available that can go over here. 3 of which can go over here to complete a nice rhombus city, concluding with another farmer. The only thing that Bryan needs to be aware of is that his field is quite vulnerable to invasions. So Matt could go over here and invade the field like this, or he could go over here and invade the field like this. And after Bryan starts a new city over here, which is of course his best move, this now leaves Matt some other invasion options through here or here. Now Matt has 2 extra meeples and completed monasteries and a gigantic lead on the scoreboard, but a nice tile for Bryan too, as he's going to get a meeple back of his own, and there's a big difference between 1 and 2 meeples. He can now hope to use one of his meeples to invade the field of Matt, another meeple to invade the field of Matt again and then overrun it. Then he's going to be getting a meeple back over here and dropping a farmer just to get some nice insurance. I wonder if Matt's now even going to bother to take the 4 points. He does bother to take the 4 points instead of lying down on the field. Of course, it's a move that makes sense. It's a very open field, actually, with 1, 2, 3, 4 invasion platforms, one of which is immediately used by Bryan. Matt is probably going to invade back straight away, either through here or through here, or through here. Now, the exact placement of this tile is not obvious. And then Bryan would urgently need a meeple back, maybe from here, and then try to equalize this field later. 25-point difference on the scoreboard, an extra monastery, and a 12, almost 15-point field for green. Yellow certainly in the driver's seat, but some chances for the Chilean as well. Oh, thank you, Wisemess, for confirming that I keep missing Doritos. Ah, I think I missed that one over here. So there are only 3 Doritos remaining. Yeah, so it's now much harder to complete this city than it seems, which is why I think, as Bryan, it was a bit too premature to meeple this. Because at that time, Matt has had other construction projects of his own. Matt with a curve. Really thinking about that invasion. He could also consider going over here or over here to invade, but I don't think that would be a good idea necessarily. Because if he plays a tile over here, we're actually surprisingly short on invasion tiles. Oh no, actually we aren't. There's still 3 monasteries. That's a great invasion square. Yeah, we should totally do that. Because if we go here, it also makes Green City a bit more vulnerable. But instead, Matt decides to go over here, which also makes perfect sense. There are still 3 monasteries that fit here, and even if he doesn't draw any of them, well, I mean, he's going to get himself a nice city. I mean, a nice 3-point field. Although I'm not sure if I should be calling a 3-point field nice, but it doesn't matter as a monastery is immediately drawn. So some bit of calculated aggression here from the world champion. And Bryan now still fighting. 19 points behind, but like it's still doable, maybe. So we could start by taking 4 points at the bottom. Or we could develop our city over here and changing the plans. And instead of multiple Doritos, we can hope that Matt draws the multiple Doritos and doesn't have good uses for them, whilst we draw one of the few remaining city caps. I can at least see a starting tile remaining to complete the city and also drop another farmer. Another alternative is just to ignore the cities and go straight for the top farm, going over here with an invasion like this, connecting through this square or through this square is certainly an option. I kind of feel like scoring is what we want to do. Then maybe Matt drops a farmer, we drop a farmer, and then we end up winning an 18-point field. But Matt has a 12-point field at the top, which we'll need to equalize later. It's tricky, but it's doable. You know how it's doable? We can actually go over here at some point and get a meeple back. And we can even get a farmer. And believe it or not, there's even a sequence of tiles that allows us into the field, if I'm not mistaken. Something like a straight line plus a curve. Do you see the idea? Farmer somewhere here, and then whoop, we sneak in all the way through here. And then we also get this 7-point road in the process. Let me just double check this. Thank you, Temrak, for confirming that I just keep miscounting the tiles. Yeah, so there's 1 fewer monastery than I expected. I should definitely do some tile counting practice before my own match in this group. By the way, I forgot to mention that one of the reasons why this match is interesting for me is not because of the high level of players, it's because that they all happen to be in my group. So I will have to play against Bryan, I will have to play against Matt later in the season. So some entertainment for y'all and some competitive Carcassonne intel for me. So Bryan goes for the city route, really trying to complete it and drop a farmer afterwards. Matt will be in a heartbeat, going over there to prevent it. Now probably calculating which way it is better to turn the tile, like this or like this. Yeah, it's a bit tricky, because let's say if you just leave it like that, then green can draw a Dorito, expand its city, and renew the completion threat. And if you leave it like this, then I believe there still might be city caps that fit there, or at the very least a Dorito plus city cap combo, which is probably his only chance. Oh, that's actually interesting. Yeah, look at this, because there are no city plus field city caps except for the wrong kind of dagger. So the only way how green can complete the city, that would be by drawing the last remaining field Dorito and then the last remaining starting tile. So that's quite the specific sequence there. Bryan can't defend with this tile. Probably needs to score quick points at the bottom, or maybe liberate his meeple here, try to do a sneaky farm invasion, try to do something. 20 seconds on the clock for the Chilean. Okay, he goes for it. He goes for the back-to-back runner farmer. Sadly, it will be denied immediately by Matt, who is going to score a point and create a bit of a buffer between this small 3-point field and the main 12-point field of his own. But believe it or not, an invasion is actually still possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a curve and there's a starting tile. And there's your invasion. Obviously, way, way harder now, but doable. Well, not anymore, as Matt gets a fantastic tile to go over here and completely shield this little field from the big one, and even meeple a 4-point road, which he should probably do. He could also go over here, preventing Green City from being completed, but instead he decides to take 2 simple points. Bryan, now with a starting tile, and he needs to decide, do we go over here and try to meeple the road and then get the field invasion, or do we go over here and probably drop a farmer like this, trying to get the last remaining Dorito tile to finish this city? The latter plan makes more sense to me just because it's worth more points. It needs to come with a farmer as well, and it only requires 1 particular tile and it cannot be easily blocked. As for an invasion in the north, we can still try and draw an invasion sequence somehow. Maybe by going... Yeah, there's just not enough tiles to do anything. Wait. Actually, we can do this. Yeah, thank you, Wisemate, for pointing out about the 50-50 on the last dagger. It's something that I did not address. There's still a tile that fits into this square, so this should be a bit of a nightmare for Chilean fans, but it is what it is. So now Green needs to draw this tile for himself, plus the dagger, just so that Matt does not get an easy city. And a 6-point field to go with it. Green gets a curve. Probably the best move that I see is just going over here, allowing Bryan to complete his city, but making sure that the 6-point farm of Green is unified with the bigger 15-point farm of Green, simply so that Green does not score twice for these 2 completed cities. An alternative is going over here and taking a 5-point road, a 4-point road plus a 1-point road monastery move. So it really depends a lot on the remaining tiles. If I'm yellow, I'm trying to think really hard and finding a sequence that wins me the game 100% of the time. Like, I feel that this sequence should be there somewhere. And the way you find this typically is you look for a counter threat. So you see which tiles your opponent needs, you assume that your opponent is going to draw the tiles that they need, and then you figure out a way, how can you use productively the remaining tiles for yourself? I guess this is one way to do this. So Matt is trying to invade this field, and it's difficult to block, and there are multiple invasion tiles possible. So let's assume that Bryan now gets the tile to complete his city. And then he also gets the dagger, so that Matt does not complete his city. But then what this means is that with his third tile, he would need to draw the road monastery to prevent Matt from going here. And Matt will now go here. Or will he? Well, I don't think there's really a lot to be done other than just going here. He might be thinking whether an invasion is even worth it, or it is worth Nipple Monastery. And actually here as Bryan, I think it was a bit of a miss. Given that Bryan needs the dagger tile, it was actually better for Bryan to go over here and invade the field like this through this side. It was even possible for Bryan to get a road monastery plus dagger tile and get in 3 farmers. Look at this farmer here, road monastery here, dagger here, bam. But now it will not be possible. Green, of course, is building something and trying to create himself a path to invasion, but he'll pretty soon realize that it is not possible. And now the best move for Matt is probably to go here and prevent the reinvasion of the 15-point field. Oh, but instead he did something different. He decided to prevent the completion of the city, but that's kind of the same thing. But then, of course, Bryan invaded the field, and now the score will be counted. It should be quite a sizable difference. $15 points. So this actually means wait, did I miscount the daggers again? Yeah, it's possible. Anyway, so this means that maybe there was a way for Bryan to win this with the right tiles. Like if you were to get some sort of blocking tile here. Anyway, but overall, very nice comeback from the world champion. So my commiserations to all the Chilean fans. My congratulations to all our British fans. 2-1 is the final result, but the Chileans should be happy that they managed to take a game off Matt, because the way the tournament format works, it actually matters not only that you win the match, the score difference also matters. I mean, not the score in each individual game, but the fact that it is a 2-1 instead of 2-0, because the number of won games is the first tiebreaker if there are 2 players with the same number of won matches. And it's a situation that is quite likely occur with 6 players in the group. I'm wondering, am I streaming this with a delay? Did I get my seconds wrong? Because obviously it took me way a lot of time to realize that all the 3 daggers are gone. I apologize that I'm a bit rusty or maybe sleepy or something. But anyway, even with the daggers gone, like when the dagger is gone, this means that Bryan's chances of winning were actually greater than it may seem, because he didn't need to draw this tile. So this game was a bit closer than one might have expected. Anyway, first of all, let's update the score to reflect that Matt indeed won. Okay, there's... Yeah, very well played indeed. I have to agree with that. Well, Matt is on to me. No, I'm not scouting. I'm just streaming. But, and already, of course, trash talking before our match has even started. And it will start in just a couple of weeks. This week, I'm playing against the Colombian player with screen name Meister 3-5. This match has not yet been scheduled, but it is in all likelihood going to happen on Friday. To wrap up the stream, let's just look at what other matches we have available. First of all, tomorrow, look at what kind of treat we're having ourselves at noon. So if you have lunchtime in UTC time zone, then we can look at China versus Australia. In all likelihood, I'll be streaming this. This I won't be able to show, but then I will be streaming a lot of the 10th and 11th January matches. Alrighty. And the final thing that I wanted to show you is the group in which we're all in. So yours truly, the creator of the website topcarcassonne.com or .something, Koki Yamaguchi, Matt, whom we just saw, Eastung, a high-rated player from Hong Kong, Bryan, whom we just saw, and Meister 3-5, who's my opponent in the first round. And of course, it's a round robin, so we're all going to be each playing each other, and the top 2 players advance to the next stage. That's it. I'm gonna see you tomorrow in a stream. So lunchtime, Secret Star versus Me Got No Skill, China versus Australia. Hope to see you all there. Make sure to meeple the like button if you like something about this stream. Make sure to subscribe in case you're here for the first time and want to see more of this kind of competitive Carcassonne content. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.